There is one piece of information that is going to make you the most amount of money possible in Bitcoin for the rest of your life. And you just need to know this one thing that most people do not realize that is even a factor. It is so important compared to everything else you have seen. When you've tried to make money in any other thing, you have not had this one piece of information that in this video I am going to explain to you exactly why this is important. And if you just learned this one thing, you can forget about everything else, because everything else comes after this, what I am going to explain to you. It is the actual amount of Bitcoin that there is in circulation. And most people just don't even think about that because they are way too used to thinking about fiat currency that we use. It is just actually so different to the fiat currency that we use, because with fiat currency you have an unlimited supply. The central banks are creating a unlimited supply of central bank fiat currency, whatever you want to call it. It is the money that we use on a day-to-day basis at the moment. It is being increased in supply every single year, every single month, every single week. They are continuing to create more and more of the supply of the currency that we use. It is just something that you need to consider, because if you don't realize the difference between Bitcoin and fiat currency, you are not going to be able to capture the benefits over long term. This is why so many people are involved in Bitcoin, but they may not talk about it much. They know it, they understand the information, but they're not discussing it because they have just understood this information. They're considering it valid. They might have read it in a book. They might have seen it in a video like I am explaining it to you now, but it is just totally different. What you need to do is you need to see that there are only 21 million Bitcoin in the total supply of Bitcoin. When you consider that Satoshi Nakamoto has 1 million Bitcoin in their wallet, and that's not going to move, then you could say that the actual circulating supply, or just the supply minus Satoshi Nakamoto's Bitcoin, is only 20 million. And then you look at all of the other lost Bitcoin. And what's lost Bitcoin? That is just where people have either sent that to a dormant wallet. So that's just where someone might send some Bitcoin and it goes to a wallet that someone doesn't have access to. That Bitcoin is gone. It's not coming back. It is gone. So they say that there's different sort of ideas as to how much Bitcoin has been lost over the course of years since 2009. But you could say that about 3 or 4 million Bitcoin has been lost. And in this, when you think about this, it's like you have the 21 million supply minus 1 million, which is Satoshi Nakamoto's, minus another 4 million, which brings you back to about 16 million. So really you only have 16 million of Bitcoin, which are actually in supply in the world. There's only 16 million, where with fiat currency, you have a total supply that is unknown. It is continuing to expand. And even if you say, okay, I have a rough idea as to how much fiat currency is in supply, that's going to be totally different in a month, 6 months, a year, because they continue to create it. And that's just this monetary decisions that the central bank make when they want to control the economy. If they think that the economy is going well, or if the economy is not going well, they think that changing the amount of fiat currency that's being released to the market will affect these things, and they will. But in doing that, they have a huge problem, because when you increase and when you increase and when you slow down the amount of fiat currency that's in the system, by doing that, by definition, you are increasing the amount of supply, which is devaluing the currency. And this is the biggest problem, devaluing the currency. This should not be done in an economy that you want to do well. And all of the central bank people, that all the people working in the central bank will tell you that that's not the case. You need to increase the amount of fiat currency that's in the system. But I am saying that it is not the correct way to do it, because if you look back in history at any type of currency, any type of fiat currency in the past, you can see that it has not worked out. It's not worked out because they continue to expand the amount of fiat in the system, and eventually it just becomes worthless because you cannot continue to expand the supply of fiat currency forever. It just won't work. You can see hundreds of examples throughout history where they have caused hyperinflation by inflating the amount of fiat currency very quickly. And that might be over the course of a week or a couple of months, where there might be some sort of event that happens in that economy where they think that they need to increase the amount of fiat currency at a very quick rate. And all of a sudden, everyone wakes up the following day and they realize that there is not, that the fiat currency does not actually have any value to what they thought it did. So when you compare Bitcoin to fiat currency, Bitcoin has a limited supply. It really only has about 16 million Bitcoin that are in circulation, as we discussed the reasons for this. With fiat currency, the amount of fiat currency in the system is continuing to expand all the time. And by definition, the value of fiat currency is going to fall against Bitcoin, because when you have a supply of anything that is constantly increasing against a supply of something that is staying level, the fiat currency, the system that is constantly increasing in supply, is going to constantly lose value against the one that is not increasing in supply. Bitcoin is not increasing in supply. It is actually, when you look at it is actually becoming less and less inflationary. That is a whole other topic. When you look at the Bitcoin halving, the fiat currency that we use, the inflation rate is actually unknown. You have the CPI inflation that they put out, where they say the CPI inflation is, they say their goal is 2%, and they might say it's 2.4%, but we're trying to get it back to 2%, when in reality, everyone knows that the inflation rate is probably more like 20-25%. And because if they were to put that out in the general media and say, oh, the inflation rate is 25%, they know that everyone would not be happy with that. So they will not put that number out. They'll just say that, oh, look, it is 2.3%. We're trying to get it back to 2. And everyone sees that and they consider that not too bad of a situation. But over the long term, even if you just had a 2% inflation rate, that is still very, very bad. That's a bad situation over the long term. In the short term, we think, oh, it's not too bad. 2%, you know, it's only 2. But if you consider a long time frame and you continue to put 2% year after year after year, the total supply will have just absolutely ballooned, because 2% every single year is totally different to just 2% for 1 year. And it's hard to see that when you are just kind of looking at the present situation, considering CPI. But the real inflation rate is really about 20-25%, when we really don't know what the inflation rate is. The inflation rate could be 10, 15, 30. Generally, it could be anywhere between 15 to 25%, but it is not 2%. That is just something you have to remember. To sum up this video, how you are going to make money in Bitcoin is by realizing that the fiat currency system we use will continue to lose value over the long term against the system, which is Bitcoin, which is not increasing in total supply.